Abuse is a big part of the game, and unfortunately, a large reason why we don't have a lot of younger officials that like to stay. Our retention rates are thankfully staying around where they need to be for us to continue having officials on the ice. However, they have fluctuated a lot, and we do lose a large number of our officials within the first year of officiating due to
Oh,
abuse. It's a really unfortunate fact that a lot of parents, coaches, players, fans do abuse the officials because they're looking for a scapegoat out of the
mm,
performance of the game. So it is one of those things that looking towards yourself, making sure again that you're doing your best and you're equipping yourself with athletic performance as well as knowledge going into the game is the best thing you can do. But unfortunately, it does come down to the abuse that we see from the general public, coaches, players, parents, fans. All that
I'm
really
so
adds to it.
yeah. I'm sorry that you've had to face that. What has it been like for you?
There's been some tough moments. I'd be lying if I said it was sunshine and roses every day, especially as a female official in a male-dominated game such as hockey. I do deal with a lot of backlash due to my gender and due to my outward appearance. So it is very difficult to continue some days, but again, it always comes down to the reason why I do what I do, and that's because I love hockey and I want to continue and making sure that other children get to experience hockey and other people get to experience hockey the way I did, where it was a supportive and growth minded environment.
Oh. Well, Grace, you're dealing it with a lot of grace, but I wonder
Thank you.
what is the support that's available to you?
So we do have a great structure within BC Hockey, especially for our female officials, because I can only speak on our female hockey pathway.
Mm-hmm.
But on our side, we do have officiating mentors. So there's a number of senior officials, such as myself, that we mentor younger officials. We go out and we make sure we shadow them or we coach them throughout games. Our phone numbers and emails are always available to them if they ever need anything or need to reach out. And I also have other senior officials that I reach out to across the world, across the country. I always have a group of peers around me that I'm able to contact at any time if I need them. I have my coaches, my supervisors, and all the way up the ladder that I can see and meet
Mm.
and talk to if I need to. So I'm very lucky that way.
And what do you think? I mean, you're referring at a high level, but
Hmm.
across the board, you talk about the retention rate. What do you think
Hmm.
would help when it comes to not just attracting more young people to officiate, but also to let them stay?
I think it really does unfortunately come down to the level of abuse that officials see. I can only speak to hockey officiating, and it is one of the ones that has the higher rates of abuse. A lot of the kids that we lose, it's just because they were yelled at by a parent or they were screamed at
Oh,
by a coach, or in some unfortunate cases, they were physically assaulted, as we've seen in the news recently,
mm,
that these kids, maybe only 13 to 16 years old, are dealing with these levels of abuse that have never been seen before and is not right in any way. These kids aren't equipped to deal with these issues, and most adults aren't equipped to deal with these issues. And so I feel like the retention rates are really coming down to those rates of abuse because we have been able to address a lot of the issues such as availability, equipment management, all of those things. BC Hockey has ways through them, but unfortunately, abuse is the one that we just can't control.
oh, I mean, we've just seen a report, right, from the commission studying the Canadian sports system,
Hmm.
just about the issue of abuse. Uh, is there something that needs to change about the culture, do you think? What would you like to see there?
I would love to see a change of culture. And I think this change of culture comes right down from the top. We've seen the initiatives that Hockey Canada has put forward, knowing with everything that's been in the news recently over the last 5 to 10 years through hockey culture. And I do think that continuing forward, there's always that change can be made. And the officials are sometimes, unfortunately, the forgotten team
Mm,
in a lot of organizations. And thankfully, Hockey Canada is trying to help us, and BC Hockey is trying to help us in continuing forward. However, change needs to continue. There needs to be a change of abuse, of the levels of abuse coming from adults to children, adults to adults, children to children. It's happening everywhere. And if I can plead to the general public, it's just please remember that we are humans too. And the last thing that we want to do is to dirty your children's experience of hockey. That's not what we're there for. So please don't dirty our experience as well.